So this question is asking us to write a function that determines if an integer is a prime number. Okay, so it accepts an integer as a parameter and it returns either true or false if that number is prime or not. And then it wants us to use that function to find the first 200 prime numbers. All right, so we'll start with writing that function and then we'll move on to the main program. So def, let's call it is prime, and it's just going to accept one number. Okay, so weird thing, 1 is not considered a prime number. So if x is equal to 1, I'm going to use a variable just called prime. It's just a Boolean variable. So it's just going to return prime at the end of my program. So return prime. So 1 isn't considered prime, so it would return false in that sense. Okay, so if x is anything else, we need to look through and check if it's a prime number or not. I mean, there's lots of different ways to find prime numbers. This is not going to be the best way, but it will work. Okay, so let's just say that I'm going to assume that the number is prime unless I find out otherwise, and I would find out otherwise if I find a divisor. Okay, so I'm going to go through every number and check whether it's a divisor. Okay, and as soon as I find any divisor, I'm going to quit the program. So I'm going to start 2 because I already dealt with 1. Okay, and I'm going to look through the entire set. I probably only need to search for half, but because if it finds a divisor in the first half, it's going to break, or if it doesn't find a divisor in the first half, it's not going to find a divisor in the second half as well. But we can modify that after. Just make sure it works like this. So if x%i is 0, then I is a divisor of x, and this is not prime. Ooh, almost forgot that colon again. Okay, so if it finds, as soon as it finds a divisor, prime is false, and I can break out of my loop. Okay, I think that would be it. That should find what it's going to do, because prime will be false, and if this if statement is good, prime will be true. If this loop never if this if statement never executes, if it does execute, then it'll set prime to false. This whole loop will stop, and it will just, the else will finish, and it will return prime. Okay, so I suppose we could check that first. So create my main method, and we'll just test that out. So let's go print is prime, and let's just test out some numbers. So is 7 a prime number? Call it. What did I do? Oh, forgot the I. Okay, 7 is a prime number. 6 is not a prime number. 20 is not a prime number. 17 is a prime number. So okay, so my prime number function looks like it's working correctly. Now I just need to solve the problem. So it says it wanted to print out the first 200 prime numbers. So I'm just going to need a loop and a counter here. So let's say count is how many prime numbers I've found. Okay. And let's say num is my loop counter. Or sorry, that's actually the number that I'm checking. Okay. So we'll start at 1. Even though I know 1 is going to be false, I'm still going to start. Alright, so let's say while count is less than 200. So starting at 0. So as soon as I get to the 200th prime number, I'm going to stop. And I'm going to send this. This is the thing I'm sending into my isPrime function. Okay. So I'm going to say if is prime. Since it's a Boolean variable, it's doing a comparison for me. Okay, so it's basically saying if num is prime, okay, then I'm just going to increase the counter. Okay, and I'm going to print out that prime number so I can see what it's actually doing. Okay, and then I have to increase num by 1 as well. Okay. So num's going to keep going and going and going and going and going until finally it finds 200 numbers. So num will eventually be bigger than 200 because not every number from 1 to 200 is prime. Okay, but it just keeps going, and as soon as I grab my 200th prime number, it should stop. So I think that will work. Okay. Right, so this should be the list of the first 200 prime numbers. So interesting, 2 is considered prime as well. Okay, so 3, 5, 7, 11. So it looks like it's calculating those correctly. And the last number that it grabs is 1223. That would be the 200th prime number.